What you're about to hear is not a drill. It is not a work of fiction. If you're listening to this broadcast, you are not safe. You are not dreaming. You are alive, and that alone makes you a target. Stay indoors. Stay silent. Stay armed. This is not a story. This is a warning, and this is the last station left. Good evening. Or whatever's left of it. This is Samuel W. Kane coming to you live, or as live as anything gets these days, from the basement of what used to be KLZR 98.7, the voice of the plains. You're listening to the radio during a zombie apocalypse. Kansas, October 23rd, 9:47 p.m. The sky outside is the color of spoiled milk, and the air, it's thick, sticky. Like the world itself is holding its breath. They say tornadoes are Kansas's ghosts, whispers of dust and rage that rise from the soil when the earth gets tired of holding secrets. But tonight, the ghosts aren't just rising. They're hungry. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much time we have. The generators are failing. The windows upstairs shattered an hour ago, and the things out there, they're not like they were before. Slower, maybe. Or smarter. Or different. But I'll get to that. Let me start at the beginning. 3 days ago, the first storm hit. Not the undead kind, the old-fashioned kind. The National Weather Service called it a supercell of historic proportions. Farmers in Russell County swore they saw funnel clouds dancing on the horizon like devilish ribbons. But by nightfall, the sirens stopped. The power died, and the screams started. You've heard the rumors, the theories, a government lab leak, a bioweapon. Some even whispered it was divine reckoning, a plague to match the book of Revelation. But here's what I know. What I've pieced together from the fragments of emergency broadcasts, from the voices that crackle through the static when the wind dies just right. It began with the lightning. Green lightning. Not the flicker you see over the wheat fields in July. No. This was neon. Unnatural. It split the sky the night the outbreak reached Hayes. A waitress named Marlene, God rest her soul, called it in from a diner off I-70. Said it struck the same patch of earth 7 times in a row. When the sheriff's deputy went to check it out, well, let's just say he's the reason they had to close the highway. But the storm changed everything. Yesterday morning, a Category EF4 tornado touched down near Waikini. Winds over 200 miles per hour. It should have been a death sentence. Instead, it became a perverse miracle. Survivors in Osborne County reported seeing the twister rip through a horde of the infected, hundreds of them, scattering limbs, torsos, half-chewed faces across the prairie like grisly confetti. For a few hours, the roads were clear. People dared to hope. Then the rain started. Black rain. Oily. Stinking of sulfur and rotting meat. It fell for 6 hours. When it stopped, the ditches were full of things. Not zombies. Not quite. They looked like mannequins dipped in tar, their bodies warped, limbs fused or split into impossible angles. And they were fast. Faster than anything we've seen. I received a transmission an hour ago from a trucker trapped near Victoria. He'd taken refuge in a grain silo, said the twisters were multiplying, that they didn't move like storms anymore. They slithered, changed direction on a dime, hunted, and wherever they passed, they left the land. Wrong. Cornfields calcified into jagged white stalks. Cattle, fused together, still bellowing. And the infected. He said the tornadoes were hurting them, driving the hordes east toward the population centers, toward Topeka, toward us. His last words were, "They're using the storms, they're learning." Then the line went dead. But let's talk about the light. Around dusk, listeners near Nicodemus reported a glow on the horizon, not the warm amber of fire. This was cold, blue-white, like the flash of an old camera, but constant. A farmer's wife, Lila, she told me to call her Lila, described it as a second moon, hovering just above the tree line. She said it pulsed, that when it brightened, the infected would stop mid-stride and turn toward it, jaws slack, as if in prayer. She also said her husband Otis walked into the light, voluntarily, left the safety of their storm cellar, and marched across their soybean field barefoot into that glow. She hasn't seen him since. I don't know what's happening, but I know this isn't just Kansas. Scattered reports are trickling in from Oklahoma, Nebraska. A ham radio operator in Colorado claims the stars have been blinking, disappearing for minutes at a time. And then there's the static. You heard it. That's been happening every 17 minutes. Exactly. I've timed it. And each time it does, the temperature in this room drops. My breath fogs, and I hear voices in the noise. Not English, not any language I recognize, but there's a pattern, a rhythm, almost like counting. They're here, outside. I don't know how many. The windows are boarded, but let me tell you about Sheriff Eleanor Hayes. Eleanor was the one who held the line at Fort Riley. When the military quarantine failed, she rounded up every civilian she could find, teachers, nurses, a high school football team, and turned a Costco into a fortress. For 2 weeks they held. Then the storms came. A nurse named Javier made it out. He said the tornado that hit them didn't sound like wind. It sounded like screaming, human screaming. When it passed, the building was intact, but everyone inside, gone. Not dead. Gone. Only their clothes remained, folded neatly in the center of the store, drenched in that black rain. They're inside. If this is the end, let me leave you with this. An hour ago, a woman's voice broke through the static. No ID, no location. She said, "The storms are alive. The lightning, it's looking for something. Don't let it find you. Don't let it see you." Then she laughed, and, "Stay back, stay back. I'm here, still here for now. Listen to me. Whatever you do, don't go outside. Don't look at the sky. And if you hear the static, close your eyes."